What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Mission Ready Body. I'm your host, Dr. H, and today we're diving into sleep. Now, remember, this is a podcast that is primarily for veterans, but not exclusively for veterans. Veterans are just like everybody else, except they have a lot more issues and wear and tear in their bodies compared to people of their same age. Today, we're going to be diving into sleep because the last few episodes we've been talking about different regions of the body like the back, shoulders, knees, mental health, etc. Today we're going to be talking about how sleep can feed into um, the healing process and how a lack of sleep can definitely impact things detrimentally. In fact, one of the things I was learning out in PT school was to start considering sleep as a vital sign. And what I mean by that is you have your blood pressure, you have your oxygen saturation, you have your heart rate. All of these things are considered vital signs because it shows that you're alive. But sleep is one that we were increasingly being encouraged to consider adding onto our documentation. So that way we can keep track of where a patient is at. Because if somebody walks in and only had 4 hours of sleep, you can get a pretty clear picture of where they're going to be at. That's not saying that they're going to be grumpy, but it is going to say that the biological processes that rely on sleep are not going to be functioning optimally, as we would probably say. Now, for veterans, this is a true crisis because 90 to 100% of Vietnam era veterans with PTSD have insomnia. 92% of active duty personnel with PTSD, according to the Millennium Cohort study, reported significant levels of insomnia, while 28% of those without PTSD reported insomnia. A study of Iraq and Afghan war veterans showed that 74% of those diagnosed with PTSD reported insomnia, like sleep difficulties, trouble falling asleep, waking up repeatedly, non restorative sleep, etc. So, what we're talking about here is not a minority of veterans, it's probably a majority of veterans, especially those with PTSD that are having sleep issues. Now, sleep is not optional, it's not a luxury, despite what they may have told you when you're on FTX pulling fire guard or anything else when you're out on mission and deployed. Your body requires sleep, just like it requires food and water. During sleep, the body repairs tissues and heals injuries. There's growth hormone release and other things that repair muscles, tendons, and ligaments. It helps consolidate memories and processes emotions. It helps regulate hormones. It helps clear waste products out of the brain, strengthens the immune system, and reduces inflammation. So you can imagine when you're not getting good sleep, that inflammation is going to go up, confusion is going to increase, the immune system is going to be decreased, and your hormones are going to be out of whack. So the cascading effects look like this, which I'm sure most veterans could tell you. Increased pain sensitivity. Everything hurts more. Everything aches more. You're way more aware of everything that hurts and aches. Slower healing from injuries. Increased risk of chronic disease like heart disease, diabetes, etc. A weakened immune system. Increased inflammation throughout the whole body. Reduced athletic performance and recovery. Worsened mood. Not that any veteran really cares, right? Um, Whereas kind of like, yeah, I'm in a crap mood, but I'm going to keep pushing through anyway. The mission always comes first. Impaired decision making and judgment. Yeah, tell me you haven't seen that in your seat. Anyway, I'm not going to start going off on commanding officers and NCOs and stuff, but we can all see when you're in the field and you haven't got a lot of good sleep, decision making becomes impaired. Reduced focus and concentration, memory problems, increased risk of accidents and injuries, increased hunger and cravings, especially for carbs and sugar, reduced insulin sensitivity, which is increasing the risk for diabetes, weight gain, difficulty losing fat, and disrupted hormone production. So, whether you're trying to recover from an injury, lose weight, build muscle, or improve your mental health, and you're only getting 4 to 5 hours a night, you are fighting an uphill battle. So, sleep is critical for veterans that are dealing with chronic pain. Sleep problems and PTSD interfere with the brain's ability to process memories and emotions, slowing down the recovery process, especially after a traumatic event. Poor sleep amplifies pain. When you're sleep deprived, your nervous system becomes more sensitive than normal. Pain signals are amplified. That means your brain is paying extra special attention to those things because it's entering into survival mode. And it says, if this is going to hurt me or if this is going to harm me, I have to know because I'm already sleep deprived. I'm already not performing my best athletically, and I'm already kind of mentally diminished in terms of my decision making and my memory. And it also impacts your ability to cope with discomfort. Studies show that one night of poor sleep can increase pain sensitivity by up to 30%. Chronic sleep deprivation creates a pain-sleep cycle where pain disrupts sleep and poor sleep makes pain worse. So if you're dealing with low back pain, shoulder pain, or knee pain, and you're not sleeping well, fixing your sleep might be one of the most important things you can do. So sleep is not nice to have. It's a foundation, a cornerstone of recovery, performance, and health. You can eat perfectly, train hard, and do all those things right, but if you're not sleeping, you're sabotaging yourself. So why do veterans struggle with sleep? Well, in the military, like I said, sleep deprivation is normal. It's even glorified. The people that can run on low sleep and still accomplish the mission are venerated. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Sleep is for the weak. You can survive on 4 hours just like everybody else. I did it private. Why can't you do it? Field exercises, deployments, rotations, training schedules, fire guard, all of it involves irregular sleep, sleep deprivation, and pushing through fatigue. We are conditioned to function on minimal sleep. And for a while, especially when we're in our teens and our 20s, we can and we do, at least better than we would when we're older. Adrenaline in youth carry us through, but after years, it takes a toll. The circadian rhythm gets disrupted. The body loses its natural sleep-wake cycle, and when we get out, you can't just flip a switch and start sleeping normally again. You can't undo decades or years of this and expect it just to change without putting in effort. One of the things that happens is hypervigilance in like an amped up nervous system. Sleep deprivation acts on a major neuroendocrine stress system. Neuro meaning nerves, endocrine meaning hormones, that can sensitize you to PTSD. Deployment requires constant vigilance. You scan for threats, you stay alert. Your sympathetic nervous system is chronically activated. This serves us well in combat and high stress situations, but when we come home, our nervous system doesn't just turn off, it stays amped up. If you're lying in bed trying to sleep, but your brain is scanning the environment for threats, you're not relaxing. A car door that slams outside, leaves that rustle outside, that could mean somebody or something is outside of your window. Your heart rate will spike, your spouse rolls over, but you are startled awake. In fact, biologically speaking, for males, we are programmed to pay attention to the smaller things in terms of sound um, in our environment. So a man will sit up wide awake in bed if he hears, like I said, leaves rustling, footsteps, a howl, anything like that. Women only really wake up when their nurture system kicks on. I was just watching a podcast about this. When a woman hears an infant cry, she will sit up out of bed and go nurture the child. A lot of men don't even hear the child crying at night, and that comes down to biological hardwiring. Men are biologically hardwired to respond to threats. Women are biologically hardwired for nurturing. So, this hyperarousal makes it nearly impossible to relax in deep restorative sleep. So now let's move on to PTSD and nightmares. PTSD is unique among mental health disorders in that sleep problems are mentioned twice in its diagnostic criteria, insomnia qualifying as a symptom of hyperarousal and frequent nightmares as the intrusion symptom. Nightmares are one of the most distressing symptoms of PTSD. Trauma-related nightmares lead to interrupted sleep and fear of falling asleep for a lot of individuals. You go to bed dreading sleep because you know the nightmares are waiting for you. So you stay up scrolling on your phone, watching TV, reading a book, anything you can do to avoid lying down and having to deal with them. Even when you do fall asleep, the nightmares wake you up, heart pounding, sweating, disoriented. And once you're awake, it's extremely hard to fall back asleep. Military schedules also are irregular. Like I said earlier, watch rotations, shift work, time zone changes during deployment. This disrupts the circadian rhythm. The body doesn't know when it's supposed to sleep or when it's supposed to be awake. And even after we get out of service, if we're working night shifts or irregular hours, the sleep will continue to suffer. Chronic pain also disrupts sleep because we can't find comfortable positions. Every time we roll over or our shoulder or our back wakes us up, we wake up stiff and sore, which makes it harder to fall back asleep. And this creates, like I said, a vicious cycle. Another one that doesn't really get mentioned quite a bit is substance use. A lot of veterans look to self-medicate with alcohol, cannabis, or other substances that they claim help them sleep. Alcohol might help you fall asleep initially, but it disrupts your sleep architecture. You don't get into deep sleep, not restorative sleep. Instead, you wake up multiple times throughout the night. Long-term use of alcohol or sleep medications can also create dependency and actually worsen your insomnia. Poor sleep hygiene is another one, and this is just A fancy way of saying you don't have a consistent bedtime. You use screens right before you go to bed. The bedroom isn't optimized for sleep, like you have a TV on in there. It's too bright, too warm, not cold enough. Caffeine late in the day. Oh, that called me out. And then no sort of wind down routine that your body can expect in order to go to bed. These habits sabotage sleep, but they are fixable. So by the time that you've gotten out of the service, you have a disrupted circadian rhythm, hypervigilant nervous system, possible PTSD with nightmares, chronic pain that disrupts sleep, poor sleep habits, and perhaps some sort of substance use to cope. And you're told by your doctor, hey, just try to sleep better. It's not that simple. And it's hard to blame a lot of these doctors because they didn't serve and they don't understand. But the good news is much of this is fixable. So let's talk now about sleep architecture, what we need. Sleep isn't just an on or an off. You cycle through different stages multiple times per night. Stage 1 is light sleep. That's the transition from wakefulness to actually being asleep. It lasts a few minutes. It's very easy to wake up from. Stage 2 is also light sleep. Deeper than stage 1, but still in light sleep. Your heart rate slows, your body temperature drops, and this makes up about 50% of your total sleep time. Stage 3 is the deep sleep, slow wave sleep. This is your restorative sleep. Your body repairs the tissues, builds muscle, strengthens the immune system, growth hormone gets released. It's the hardest stage to wake up from, and it is critical for physical recovery. And then finally, of course, we have REM sleep. Rapid eye movement. This is when you dream. This is when the brain is active, processing memories and emotions. It's critical for mental and emotional health. And discriminating sympathetic activity during REM sleep helps contribute to greater risks of developing PTSD, which we'll touch on here in a moment. You cycle through these stages 4 to 6 times per night, with each cycle lasting about 90 minutes. In the first half of the night, you get more deep sleep. In the second half, you get more REM sleep. So what disrupts the sleep architecture is going to be alcohol, because alcohol suppresses REM, caffeine, which reduces deep sleep, stress and anxiety, which keep you in the lighter stages because your body's anticipating a fight, pain, which wakes you up from deep sleep, and sleep medications, which alter natural sleep architecture. When the sleep architecture is disrupted, even if you're in bed for 9 hours, you're not getting quality restorative sleep. So how much sleep do you actually need? You need between 7 to 9 hours of sleep. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. Even though I just gave you a number, and every sleep expert says this, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. You could be in bed for 8 hours, but if you're waking up multiple times, not getting into deep sleep, and your sleep is fragmented, you're not getting restorative rest. Signs that you're not getting enough quality sleep include waking up feeling unrefreshed, groggy and fatigued throughout the day, requiring caffeine to function. Ooh, I'm getting called out a lot during this podcast. You're irritable and moody. You have trouble focusing and concentrating, and you fall asleep during the day, while at meetings, watching TV, etc. If this sounds like you, it's time to prioritize sleep. So let's talk now about sleep hygiene. We're going to start with the foundation. Sleep hygiene is the set of habits and environmental factors that you can control that promote good sleep. This is where everyone should start. 1, a consistent sleep schedule if you can manage it. Going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time every single day, including weekends. Your body has a circadian rhythm that thrives on consistency. When you go to bed at midnight one night, 2 a.m. the next, and 10 p.m. the night after, you're constantly fighting your body's natural rhythm. Pick a bedtime that best allows for 7 to 9 hours of sleep and stick to it. And create a wind down routine that is 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Your body needs time to transition from awake and alert down to ready to sleep. Create a consistent routine that signals to your brain it's time to relax. Things like dimming lights, reading a book, a physical book. This has actually become mine, and it helps quite a bit. Gentle stretching or yoga, that would wake me right up because of how uncomfortable and tight it would be, but for some people it's relaxing. Taking a warm bath or a warm shower, for sure. Practice breath work or meditation. Listen to a calming book or a podcast, or journal. It's kind of like all the things that our ancestors used to do before they went to bed, if you want to think about it that way. The key is consistency, doing the routine every night, and your brain starts to associate with sleep. Optimize your sleep environment. Your bedroom should be a sleep sanctuary, as they say. Temperature should be cool, below 70 degrees is optimal. Your body temperature drops as you sleep, and a cool room helps facilitate that. Make sure your room is as dark as possible. Use blackout curtains or a sleep mask, and cover or remove any lights like alarm clocks, charging indicators, etc. Minimize noise as much as possible. This is the one I can't control. In case you're listening to all these podcasts and you hear what you're hearing right now, the people upstairs like to move around a lot. So throughout the night, both of my upstairs neighbors actually have insomnia, diagnosed, both of them. So throughout the middle of the night, my job is minimizing noise as much as possible, usually sleeping with earplugs or earbuds in that are just playing quiet little white noise music to keep me from being able to hear that. If you can't control external noise, like I said, use earplugs or a white noise machine. White noise or brown noise can be very effective for veterans with hypervigilance. And my theory on this is because when we're going through basic training, a lot of us had those AC machines or those heating elements in the barracks, and those things are masters at putting out white noise. And I think it just helps remind us of a time where we were sleep deprived and we were in basic training and we kind of had this brotherhood or sisterhood going on. Somebody's already always watching over you. Fire guard's always there, so you know that you're safe and secure. And I think a lot of us that just kind of programs us back into that phase of our life and helps us rest easier because we were so dog tired. We had no option but just to pass the heck out and then pray to God that we didn't get woke up by a red light saying, hey, it's your turn for fire guard. Anyway, comfort. Invest in a good mattress and pillows. If you have chronic pain, consider pillows that will support proper alignment. Remove distractions. I do not have a TV in my bedroom. I will not have a TV in my bedroom. I try to keep my phone as far away from me while I'm in the bedroom, and I don't bring any of my work materials in there. And I also manage my light exposure. I actually recently bought the blackout curtains, but also when it comes to lighting in the room, I will have a red light going before I go to bed. In the evening, dimming lights 1 to 2 hours before bed and having any of your screens that you can. Use warm, dim lighting. So I know a lot of Mac products have the yellow light shift, where they shift away from the bright blues and start going into the dimmer lights to help facilitate good sleep. That's something you can look onto your phone or your tablet to use. And finally, you can watch your caffeine and your alcohol intake. Caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 6 hours, meaning half of it is still in your system after 5 to 6 hours of drinking it. If we're sensitive to caffeine, you should cut it off by noon or 1 p.m. Even if you think that caffeine doesn't affect you, it might still be disrupting your deep sleep, especially earlier in the night than you think. Alcohol might help you fall asleep initially, but it does disrupt sleep quality and suppresses the all-important REM sleep, and it causes more frequent wakening in the second half of the night. So if you drink, it's recommended that you do it earlier and in moderation. Exercise. It's great, but exercising within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime can amp you up and make it even harder for you to fall asleep. So morning or afternoon exercise is considered the best. Gentle stretching or yoga, however, in the evening is considered perfectly fine. Managing stress and rumination. If you lie in bed with your mind racing, we need some strategies to manage that. One is the thought dump. Before bed, writing down with pen and paper everything on your mind, to-do lists, worries, thoughts, getting them out of the head and onto paper. This signals to the brain, I've captured it, it's documented, I don't need to keep saving space inside of my brain to think about it. Box breathing. 4 by 4 by 4 by 4. So that's breathing in for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, breathing out for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, and repeating. This is designed to help you calm your nervous system and prepare you for sleep. Meditation or guided relaxation, apps like Calm, Headspace, Insight, etc. have sleep-specific content. Body scan meditations are also good. Audiobooks are also fantastic, especially if they're chill. Don't listen to horror. Just don't do it. Listen to a nice, happy fantasy book or Lord of the Rings or something, something more chill, something that I've found personally, if I'm listening to something that requires my full engaging attention, it's going to wake me up. If I listen to something that has a little bit more, let's say, high written prose, older, let's say like Lord of the Rings or any of those fantasy series that aren't too engaging, it'll put me to sleep. It usually comes down to, now that I think about it, familiarity. If I already know the story and already know what's going on in the book, I can listen and think, oh yeah, I'm at that point in the book, and then I just kind of drift off to sleep. I'm not listening, for example, to my podcasts before I go to sleep. That would be terrible. This voice couldn't lull any of you to sleep, I imagine. Anyway, naps, being strategic. If you're sleep deprived, naps can help, but the length matters. Keep naps from 20 to 30 minutes, that's a power nap, or try and shoot for 90 minutes, that's a full sleep cycle. Napping before 2 p.m. and avoiding napping in the late afternoon or evening because that will make it harder to fall asleep at night. Now, addressing the PTSD related sleep issues. For veterans with PTSD, sleep hygiene alone often isn't enough. Even after treating daytime PTSD symptoms, many people find that insomnia still persists. So let's talk about specific strategies for PTSD-related sleep problems. Nightmares and night sweats are one of the most distressing PTSD symptoms, and trauma-related nightmares lead to interrupted sleep and fear of falling asleep. There's an evidence-based treatment called Imagery Rehearsal Therapy. It's called IRT for short. It's a specific type of therapy designed to reduce nightmares. How it works is you write down a reoccurring nightmare, you change the nightmare into a less distressing narrative, you rehearse the new versions throughout the day. This should be done under the care of a therapist. This is not something that I'm saying that you should do. These are things I'm trying to bring to your attention that you could talk to with your therapist. And as most people know, you can always reach out to the VA and try and schedule, depending on your level of disability or whatnot, you can try and schedule a meeting with them. These are some things that I'm bringing up for you to be able to discuss with them, not saying that you should do on your own without any guidance. But the goal of IRT is to teach the brain an alternative script over time, and the nightmares will decrease, hopefully, in frequency and intensity. It has strong research support and is available through VA mental health care services. Gotta love it when you're recording a podcast and you just try and merge the word mental and health and it almost comes out as a drug name. Other nightmare strategies. Lucid dreaming technologies. Learn to recognize when you're dreaming and take control. Grounding techniques before you go to bed, reminding yourself that you are in a different location, an environment that is safe, you are home. Medication is also sometimes prescribed, and that's going to come down to talking to your doctor and seeing if it's right for you. Knowing the difference of hypervigilance and hyperarousal. Your nervous system is stuck in threat detection mode, making it hard to relax. Things that you can do to help bring these down. So hypervigilance is like you're paying attention to everything. Hyperarousal means like you're hyper excitable, like you're ready to like jump out of bed and to fight. I struggle more on the side of hypervigilance. My body is paying attention to absolutely everything around it, and then my body wants to do absolutely nothing about it except lay there and complain. Progressive muscle relaxation is the idea that you can target these things by tensing and releasing each muscle group, starting with your toes, moving up the legs all the way to your head. This physically releases tension and signals to your nervous system to relax. It's also called like body scanning. I do this, but with my low-key ADD and OCD brain, I stop almost every time by the time it makes it to about my hamstrings because I've lost focus. So this isn't one that's particularly useful for me, but is one that helps a lot of people. Grounding exercises. Naming 5 things you see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. That actually helps me quite a bit, and it wouldn't shock you to know that that is helping people that have hypervigilance because it takes your mind off of everything in the environment and pulls it a little bit closer to your actual body and says, okay, what is the sensory input that you're getting right now? Safe sleep environment. Some veterans sleep better with a white noise machine. That's me. Some prefer sleeping with their backs to a wall or a corner. That's also me. Some need a nightlight or a door partially open. That would definitely mess with my sleep. So whatever makes you feel safer is considered valid when it comes to like modifying your sleep environment. There's also a bunch of things out here: cognitive processing therapy, prolonged exposure therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, sleep restriction therapy. All of these are things that you can talk to with your doctor and your therapist in order to see what is best for you. Now, moving into medications. I am not a medical doctor, so I am not allowed to prescribe things, but I can tell you what the research says. Sleep medications can be helpful in the short term, but they're not recommended for long term because of dependency, tolerance, and rebound insomnia, and they don't address the root cause. Melatonin is good because it helps with circadian rhythm issues, but high doses can actually disrupt sleep, and it works best just for jet lag or shift work. It doesn't work best for actually modifying your sleep in the long term. Antihistamines make you drowsy but don't actually improve your sleep quality, and they can increase grogginess, and they're not recommended for long-term use. And then there are some medications that can be prescribed for PTSD nightmares that are effective, but they're not useful for everyone, which is why you should talk to your doctor. So now let's talk to sleep position and pain. This is especially important for veterans dealing with chronic pain because back pain and sleep position pretty much go hand in hand. The best position is going to be on your back with a pillow under your knees to reduce lumbar spine pressure, or on your side with a pillow between your knees to keep your spine aligned. I'm going to say this more as my specific experience in physical therapist with a lot of my patients. A lot of couples like to sleep big spoon, little spoon, with the bigger partner throwing the leg up and over the hips of the smaller partner. I would recommend not doing that because that a lot of times puts a lot of weight into the low back of the smaller partner, and it also can put the larger partner's back out of alignment. So let's just say probably not a good idea to go throwing the leg in the middle of the night. The worst position you could sleep for your low back is on your stomach because it hyperextends your back and rotates your neck. For shoulder pain, the best position is going to be on your back with your non-painful side holding and hugging a pillow to support your arm. The worst position is going to be sleeping on that shoulder because it's going to compress the joint. For knee pain, the best position is, once again, on your back with a pillow under your knees or on your side with a pillow between your knees. Whichever side is painful, you're probably going to want to elevate. For all of these, you're kind of hearing the idea of a pillow here and a pillow there. For that reason, body pillows are pretty great, especially for side sleepers. A knee pillow, which is the sort of pillow that's specifically designed to go between your knees, is also fantastic. And some cervical pillows are also critical for people that have neck and back pain because it helps support proper neck alignment. Investing in good pillows is a great idea because you're going to spend a third of your life sleeping, and you want to do it comfortably with as minimal pain as possible. Next is going to be tracking and measuring your sleep. You can't improve what you don't measure, so you have to track your sleep. A sleep diary is fantastic, lasting for at least 2 weeks, recording bedtime, wake time, how long it took to fall asleep, number of awakenings, all the stuff. If you have smart wearable technology, most of the time it's doing this for you. Noting, however, your caffeine intake, your alcohol intake, exercise, and stress levels, most of the time that's going to be on you because your watch isn't tracking that. But it will help you identify patterns. Nights that you drank alcohol and you had poor sleep aren't going to be the most noticeable thing to you unless you were taking those notes. Wearable devices, like I said, are great, like the Apple Watch, Fitbit, Garmin, Whoop, Cora. They're not 100% accurate, but they're very good at tracking for trends over time. Things you want to look for is total sleep time, sleep efficiency if you get a score, number of awakenings throughout the night, and then time estimated in deep and REM sleep. These are not meant to be numbers that you obsess over, but they are meant to be numbers that you can track and make sure you have a firm baseline, especially when you compare with how you felt the next day. So the action steps. What you can do this week. 1, set a constant bedtime that allows for 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Stick to it for 2 weeks, every single night. Create a wind down routine that goes on 30 to 60 minutes before you go to bed, doing that every night. Changing your sleep environment to be as cool, dark, and quiet as possible, removing screens and making it, as we said earlier, a sleep sanctuary. Cutting caffeine out by 2 p.m. Whoops. Now, for 1 week, no caffeine after 2 p.m. See how it impacts your sleep. Guess what my homework's going to be doing. And then step 5, starting that sleep diary. Track your sleep for 1 week. Note what you are doing in bed, when you wake up, how long it took to fall asleep, etc. So that is it for this episode of Mission Ready Body. Sleep. Sleep is not a luxury. It is not something you get to do someday when things calm down. You have to make time for it now for the sake of your physical recovery, your mental health, and your long-term recovery. You can do everything else right, but if you're not sleeping, you are sabotaging yourself. If you know someone or you yourself are likely presenting with symptoms that look like PTSD, go and talk to a doctor, go and get seen by a therapist. Veterans continue to experience residual insomnia at a rate of about 50% in spite of having achieved PTSD remission. So even if you do have PTSD and you're being treated, the residual insomnia rate's about 50%. But working with another medical professional, the goal is to improve your sleep as much as possible. There might be nights where you still have some insomnia, but the goal is reducing it as much as possible. And the only way you're going to start that journey of progress is if you take the first step, getting the help that you need, and starting the battle of improving your sleep. If you're struggling with sleep, especially if it's tied to nightmares or hypervigilance, seek help. There's a whole bunch of things that we talked about earlier, like cognitive behavioral therapy, imagery rehearsal therapy, and so on and so forth, that are available through the VA and are seen as highly effective. Your sleep matters, so prioritize it. Next week, we're going to go into building the civilian training program, how to design a sustainable weekly training split that works around injuries, supports longevity, and fits your life. But if you don't get the sleep right, it's not going to matter. If this episode helped you, please consider sharing it with anybody and everybody that you know and leave a review wherever you listen to it. As always, show notes, sleep hygiene checklist, and other resources are going to be available on Patreon. It's my way of getting you guys to go over there and join. Don't forget, it's for free. There is fun things that aren't in the free tiers, but getting you guys there for free just helps me reach out and build the community where we can all stay happy, stay healthy, and stay fit. Now, everybody stay awesome, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.